Welcome to Build Back Better, Virtual Convening Objectives. This is the first video in a three-part series focused on how to build awareness.
For this section, we'll be focused on the awareness building objectives like information sharing, knowledge development, idea evaluation, and resource identification. When we look at the stage of building awareness, information sharing is one of the most popular. It is also the objective that most online convening is really designed to optimize. Most convening platforms are designed such that doing webinars or presentations or panels are really easy, and this means that the difficulty for this is very low. When you're focused on information sharing, your goal is the dissemination of ideas, information, and knowledge to others, and really this can be done for any group size. One of the key considerations here is that um, you don't want to overly rely on this type of one-to-many passive interactions when you're thinking about the broader structure of your virtual convening. Some of the interactions that you can do to liven up an information sharing session is to incorporate question and answer. You can do this either asynchronously before or after the session. You can do this through the chat feature, or you can use a supplementary tool like Slido to be able to gather that. Many of these sessions are actually benefit from doing a pre-recorded video, not unlike this one, where the lecture portion of your convening is being shared and people can observe it at a time and at a speed that works best for them. So that when you have everyone in the online room together, you're really focused on that interaction, say, between the speaker and the participants, for example. Another objective of awareness building is knowledge development. So this is a little different from just lecturing and sharing information. This is where you're actually building a shared understanding, a mental model, or a framework together. So this does make it a little bit more difficult. It also means that it really only works best for less than 50 people. Key consideration here is that it's important to really optimize the real-time interactions and to lay that foundation for ongoing interaction and work. As with any kind of experimental process, you're not going to be able to really control the outcome here. So you have to be open to that when you're thinking about your convening purpose. This is a model that works really well for debates. It also tends to work best when you leverage other virtual tools like virtual whiteboards, so Mural or Miro or Google Drawing, for example. This kind of objective also lends itself really well to both pre and post work because there's a lot of processing and a lot of preparation that's required of your participants for them to be able to use their time together effectively. This is where you can do problem-based learning or case studies or design labs where folks are given a scenario and they actually have to apply what they've learned previously to come up with the answer or to design the experience or to solve the problem. The third model is focused on idea evaluation. So this is where you already have an existing idea and you're trying to gain multiple perspectives about that idea. This is where you might have critical discussion, other versions of debates. This is where voting or polls can come in handy. This is much more difficult to do online, mostly because online platforms really aren't designed for this objective. Um, we say it can be done with groups of up to about 50 in size, but that's with the caveat that you're actually breaking that larger group of 50 into much smaller groups. Anything of really more than 10 people in a breakout group is going to be difficult to facilitate. Some of the key considerations here is that you may want to incorporate idea evaluation into your agenda, especially if your ultimate objective is to drive people towards taking action together. Some of the session types that work really well for this are Think, Pair, Square, which is where you have the chance to dive into giving people a space to really think about the problem that you've presented, to pair off with one another to digest what they thought, and then go into groups of 4 or squares where they can share with one another what they learned and talk about next steps. World Cafe and DeBono's Six Hats also work very well. I would say DeBono's Six Hats is probably one of the best facilitation frameworks you can have for idea evaluation in this model. To give you a little example of what the De Bono 6 hats framework involves is you give people a set amount of time where they essentially wear different colored hats. While they're wearing these different hats, which could be literal, if you want to add an element of fun to it, everyone is in the same mode of evaluation. So when wearing blue, they're focused on the process. White is the facts at hand. Red is the feelings. Green hat is where you can brainstorm, think creatively, be in a yes and position. Yellow is where you look at all the benefits, and the black hat, of course, is where you look at the cautions or drawbacks. One of the benefits of this model is that you're never putting all the onus on one participant to wear the black hat and think about the risk or think about what could go wrong. There's a time and place where everyone gets to participate in that risk evaluation, which means everyone also gets to participate in the benefits and every other stage of the process. The final awareness objective is resource identification. So a lot of times people think you can jump right ahead to resource transfer, where you're helping people to broker deals. What we found is that there's a few baby steps you've got to take before that's successful, and the first one is resource identification. So this is enabling people in the room to identify the financial, human, social, or physical resources that exist within a group. It's relatively easy to do. Once again, you can do it for a larger group size, but by doing so, you're actually breaking the group up into smaller components using breakout room features. One of the focuses here is pre-work. So there is an opportunity through surveys or polls to give people a chance to name what resources that they have that they can deploy for this community. You can also use virtual whiteboards to still activate post-it notes or um, methods for folks to name what resources they're bringing to the table, or to be able to browse what resources others are contributing. Ask offer boards also work well here, and peer sharing is beneficial. A spectrum map can also be done virtually. Normally, a spectrum map would be done in person where people stand in a line or stand in different corners of a room. You can do something similar using a virtual whiteboard where people just put an X in a quadrant, for example, to indicate where they stand, or along a spectrum to indicate where they stand on a question. So that brings us to the end of our first video focused on awareness, and please stay tuned for the next video focused on the 4 objectives relating to alignment.